Welcome everybody. Great to see your faces again. And we've just had a very nice board meeting. So I'm wondering if Dee, you'd just give us a rundown quickly on what happened at our board meeting. It's not going to be the full minutes or anything like that, just the main points of what we discussed tonight. Thanks, Dee.
The main discussion points were what we are going to do on the 5th Sunday of the month, what activities we're going to have, the way PHFs are awarded, the changes to RILA that have been sent to us. That means a change of venue, a change of cost and a change of date. Some changes that our president wants to put in the bylaws, which is who organises the changeover, the way PHF's credits are used, using a run sheet and the Judas Kroll Memorial Award, the community raffle, which we are going to have, the education payments we're making for John Kiwanku, the changes to our 2022-23 plan, the speaker program, and some information from our working environmental group. And that was the sort of sum of the board meeting. Is that all you need, Marilyn?
Yes, I think so. That's great. Thank you. Welcome to Madhu and Caro tonight. We have two visitors online and it's great to see you both with us. The introduction of the guest speaker, tonight's guest speaker or speakers will be our environmental group. So Judith, would you like to start your presentation, please?
Hang on, wait till I find her. Make her a
Judith?
co-host.
Can you hear me, Judith? She seems to have stopped.
Judith.
You there, Judith? She seems to have frozen. No, you're right now.
Yes, I was just saying, I can share my screen, or if Ross is better at it, I shall try to see what happens. So what do I do?
I can share the screen. You want me to show the slides?
Yeah.
Just let me bring it, and yeah, I can bring the slides up. And
do I have to make you a co-host?
I
have.
Yes, you will again. Yes, like
I've done that.
Okay, and let me just bring these up.
Okay, if you can just bring them up and do it as a slideshow, put the first one up and I shall talk. And if you and Doug and Lucy want to say anything.
Yeah.
My brain's not really functioning as well as it should because I'm really still thinking East Timor, which is where I should be. But I suppose you all read my newsletter and saw how things went a bit, well, I was going to be rude then and say arse up. I'll take that back. They just went upside down.
All right.
Well, basically what we're going to talk about is what the plans are for the club. So that's what the PowerPoint's all about.
Just go next when you want the next slide.
Yeah, and some of this you'll probably know anyway. As you know, now we've got this 7th area of focus for Rotary, which is the environment. Can we see it as the slideshow, Ross, please?
Like that?
Thank you, yeah. And the good thing about the area of focus is not just environment per se, it's not just climate change, it's also things like biodiversity, circular economy, climate, food systems, pollution, and sustainable living. So as it turns out, our club's got quite a lot of projects along those lines anyway, so they were never put in as environmental projects because that wasn't an area of focus then. But in actual fact, we've got quite a few doing these things. And that's why we've already got our bronze and silver awards, and we're now heading for our gold award. Thanks, Ross.
Oops.
Missed one.
Yeah. There we go.
Right, I went to the presentation that Jessie Harmon gave when they were launching the club carbon calculator, which doesn't actually apply to our club being an e-club. It was applied mainly to face-to-face meetings, etc. But she had a lot of good stuff to say about Rotary. And this is where I find that Rotary is actually a very important organisation. The world is our backyard. We need to care for it. When we see a problem, we do what Rotarians do best, find a solution and act on it. As Rotarians, we know that climate change is happening. It's important that we take action. And the next one I really like, if each of the 1.4 million Rotarians and their families take small steps to solve environmental challenges, major changes can and will occur. And I think that's something important too, because as one person, you might think, well, I cannot do much because I'm just a single person. But when we think that we are actually part of a group of 1.4 million, in fact, I think it's 1.6 million I read somewhere, plus their families, and that's several millions of people that can be making a difference. Thanks, Ross. You've probably seen these graphs before. I mean, obviously, environment and climate change are going hand in hand these days, but carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, all of the greenhouse gases have increased exponentially since the Industrial Revolution, so around about the 1600s, just basically going off the scale. So that's what we have to look very seriously at, because that's why the planet is warming. Although I would doubt that right at the moment, sitting in here in my 27 layers. But overall, climate change means real changes in climate. It doesn't just mean warming, it means disastrous floods, disastrous fires, unusual storms. So all sorts of climate catastrophes because everything's becoming unstable. Thank you, Ross. So what is it that we talk about when we think about the environment? First of all, biodiversity. Biodiversity matters, and a lot of our projects are actually helping with biodiversity, you know, saving koalas, saving bees, planting trees, etc., etc. You might be pleased to know that all of these photos were taken in my back garden or very close to my back garden. So aren't I lucky to live in a place like this? Thank you. So climate change, we all know this, of course, droughts, fires, floods. So all of these photos have been taken very recently, not by me, I add, but obviously in parts of New South Wales. All of these things that we have to look at, but it's not just climate change itself, it's the humanitarian issues. And that's what Rotarians are really good at, looking at humanitarian issues and wanting to do something about it. Thank you. And apart from just climate change, we also have another major problem, and that's pollution. These figures came from Clean Up Australia. I had to, when I was doing my ESRAG ambassadors course, I had to give a bit of a talk on this sort of stuff. So this is what I found out, that on average, each Australian produces 540 kilograms of rubbish every year. So the total waste in Australia is 67 million tonnes. 55% is recycled, 32% goes to landfill, and 2.5% enters rivers or oceans. And that's a bit frightening, really, that only 55% is recycled. It's something we have to look seriously at. And of this rubbish, 2.5 million tonnes is plastic, only 13% of which is recycled. And I read something not so long ago that plastic's been around since about the 1940s, when Bakelite was first invented, and it was going to be the most wonderful product we ever had. But every bit of plastic that's ever been produced on Earth is still here somewhere, because plastic doesn't break down, it doesn't biodegrade, it doesn't decompose. So it's here somewhere. There's either microplastics or plastics in pretty well every single part of the world's environment, and actually inside people as well. You know, microplastics has been found in breast milk. Microplastics has been found in placentas and things. So it's a bit frightening when you think about the pollution that we humans are giving to this planet. Thanks, Ross. So here we go. That top picture actually is rather interesting. That's a pile of plastic bottles, which I took in East Timor when the UN were up there very strongly in the first few years, 21 up through to about 25. That photo was taken after they'd been there for 12 months. All the plastic bottles that they had brought into Akusi to bring in their clean drinking water. And the bit of the picture that's actually not seen because it's behind that white curve, there's a bus, a broken down old bus, completely covered by these plastic bottles. It's higher than the plastic bottles, higher than the bus itself. I fought with the UN for many years over getting rid of those plastic bottles. But, you know, there's an organisation like the UN that should have more sense, and they've left millions and millions of tonnes of plastic waste scattered around the whole of East Timor. And of course, the one on the top right, that's recycled clothing that gets sent over to countries in Africa, etc. All this wonderful recycled clothing that we send over there, and most of it, of course, goes into waste. And the one on the bottom left, I find that rather sad, because there's a hermit crab using a plastic lid as a home. And I think, how sad is that we've done? So basically, it's we people in the developing world sending our garbage over to the developed. It's the people in the developed world, I mean, sending our rubbish over to the developing world, and then they have to cope with it when they are the least able to cope with all of this rubbish we're producing. Thank you, Ross. So what we're planning on doing as your environmental working group, we obviously want to go for the Gold Award. And to get the Gold Award, we have to continue with the projects that we are doing already and show that they are continuing. But we have to come up with a club initiative, a whole club initiative, not just specific people doing their projects, but something that the whole club can do. So we've got this list of ideas that Lucy and Ross, Doug and myself have thought of. Just simple things that people in the club can do to change their daily activities, to improve their carbon footprint, to improve their environmental impacts, etc. They're really, really easy things. I know you can't read it terribly well there, but it just shows you what we hope to send out to the club. A list of things you can do, for example, with food and drink, add several meat meals per week to your diet, buy fewer pre-packaged meals, use a keep cup rather than a disposable cup, and so the list goes on. You know, recycle, buy a worm farm if you can. If you've got to fly, then pay your carbon offsets, etc., etc. So all sorts of simple stuff. The idea is that hopefully all of the club members will give it a go, and they'll tick what they're doing now, and then in 3 months' time tick what they're doing then, and hopefully there'll be a vast improvement, which we will then collect, and I'll send it to someone, you know, being a great delegator, I'll send it to either Doug or Ross, and they will go through this and give us a quantitative, qualitative output of what we've actually done to improve our club's carbon footprint. So that's sort of the idea that we're tossing around. We think it should work well, and we think it might be something that could spread to other clubs, etc., not just ours once we get this up and running. The other side of that slide shows a thing that was put out by the organisation that I was working with, Osgreen, that I was volunteering with. Actually, there are a few of these around about, is one planet enough? In other words, you try and measure your daily carbon use, etc., and work out how many planets you would need if everybody in the world lived the same way as you do. And I've done this, I get up to about 3 planets, and most of that's because I go by plane to East Timor. I think Doug did it a while ago, and he's worked out that his family would need 4 planets if everybody lived the same way as he did. And I don't know whether, Ross, did you ever get round to doing it? You said you were going to. No? But it's an interesting exercise. It just basically, you know, how many times you shower, how much water do you use, how much electricity, all that sort of thing. And you work out that if everybody in the world lived the same way as you do, then how many planets would we need? And it's a bit frightening. I've done it with kids up in East Timor, and that comes out to about half a planet. And I've done it with kids at private schools in various parts of Australia, and it comes out to about 7 or 8 planets. So again, it just goes to show the inequality between the developing countries and the so-called developed countries. So that's a plan that we're going to try and put to the club. We are going to put to the club. In fact, I'm putting it to you right now, aren't I? And hope that you'll take it on board and help us along and just see what we can actually do. And as I said before, I think the important thing is something simple like, let's not use a plastic cup anymore. Let's get an eco-friendly cup. It's a simple exercise. But if you think that might be 50, 60, 100 cups over a year that you're not throwing out, and if 1.4 million people do that, then it's going to make a big difference. Thank you, Ross. So here's our vision statement and our mission statement that we presented to the board, and I'll change that top because it's not draft anymore. The board has basically accepted this as our vision. to raise awareness of the natural environment, respect the science, and promote environmental sustainability for our community and future generations, to reduce our carbon footprint by modifying our behaviour and having a positive impact on our natural environment. Now, that's our E-Club. Your working group has done that. That's our E-Club's vision, I think, our environmental vision. So hopefully people can look at that, think it makes sense and want to do something. Our mission statement: to reduce the causes and impacts of environmental degradation on our community by measuring our carbon footprint and pledging to become carbon neutral by using mitigation techniques to remove excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Introducing and measuring easily achievable environmental targets. Encouraging all members to join a Rotary Action Group which promotes environmental sustainability, for example, Rotarians for Bees, Adopt a Tree, Rotarians for Koalas. Encouraging all members, their family, friends and community to join with us in engaging environmentally friendly behaviours. So that's our plan, that's our idea. And as I said, it might sound massive, but in actual fact, it isn't, because if everybody just makes a slight difference to what they're doing, etc., easy differences, then we can make a difference to the planet. And I don't see anybody's faces, so I have no idea whether anyone's got their hand up, and I am waiting for some interruptions from either Ross or Doug. What's going on? You're being very quiet.
Don't worry, I'll come down in a minute.
No
Right.
hands up yet.
Okay, now the
Like
last
some
one,
hands up.
It's fine.
yeah, the last slide is just some stuff that came out from Greenpeace when I was doing Ross. No, that's better. That came out when I was thinking about this, and it's just basically some sustainable swaps, you know, plastic straws for reusable straws. I must admit, I've got the most fancy reusable straw, which I can't show you because it's in my handbag. My mother, many years ago, made a silver straw. So I'm one of the few people in the world who has a silver straw with grapes entwined around it, all in silver. So I'm very fancy when I need a straw to drink out of. Throwing away, mending, don't use plastic bags, reusable bags, etc., etc. There's a whole lot of really simple stuff that can be done. And the last one, again, came out from Greenpeace. I think if we wait for the government, it will be too late. If we act as individuals, it'll be too little. If we act as communities, it might be just enough. And I think that's how we've got to think. You know, what I
like
do
that.
personally mightn't make a big difference, but if I can encourage 10, 20, 30, 40 people to do the same thing, then yeah, it will make a difference. So, okay, I think that's it. Now, if someone would like to ask questions, if Ross or Doug or Lucy would like to say something, please do so.
I think this is, thanks very much, Judy, like as being part of your team, this is really just to plant the seeds. I mean, I think, do we assume that everyone is aware of the environment and climate change and can see what is going on and seeing the effects of human-induced impacts on climate change and the environment? So I guess we're just presenting some options, some practical options that can be undertaken to mitigate that at a personal level.
Yeah, I did read something recently, or another Zoom thing that I was at, and the lady who was talking about this environmental stuff, and she was saying the good thing is that the solutions are all there. All we have to do is actually get onto them. You know, we need the government to do things, we need industry to do things, but the solutions are there. And I went to a wonderful talk a while ago with my local Teal Independent, and she had a young lady who works for Cannon Brooks at Atlassian. And she was the most amazing speaker, and she was telling us what can be done, you know, what can be fixed, where we can get electricity from renewables, and it's so much. And she also was a financier, so she was also talking about the money that can be made. And I think more and more you see in the newspapers, etc., these days that we do have solutions, and they can be solutions that will make a difference to this country. And we just need to accept them and get on with it. And I think it's great that it's actually in the newspapers all the time now. Right, I can now see a few hands. I'll start at that beginning because I don't know who put them up first. Lucian?
Lucian was first. Go along the line. Lucian?
Yeah, basically, I just want to say thank you very much, Judith, and your team. It's done a fantastic job of that. Look, as Ross was saying, the things are there. It's just we need to be made more aware of it. And, we also say, oh, yeah, no, I want to do my bit. But with you putting this plan together, it's like showing us where we can make changes, which is fantastic. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's what I think Doug, Ross and Lucy and myself wanted.
Yep.
People to think about these things. And we also don't want to beat you around the head and say, do this, do this, do this. I don't want my school mom hat on, but I think it's just easy stuff. And what I like now is that so many people are thinking environmentally now. 5 years ago, no, didn't matter. But now I think we are actually beginning to realise that stuff can be done. Kero.
Yeah,
Kero
that
has
was
hand up.
yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
the
you.
fact that that one of our fellow e-clubs is taking the lead like this is absolutely brilliant. But I have a selfish question to ask as the Zone 8 coordinator of Membership Voice. I'm wondering whether you'd be prepared to come on and deliver a presentation in one of our webinar time slots on what you're doing there. Granted, it hasn't grown your club yet, and that's a test that we usually run over any initiative like this. But as far as I'm concerned, what you're doing here is essentially setting an example for other Rotary clubs and demonstrating that a cohort of more senior Rotarians is taking this thing very, very seriously. So would you be prepared to do it? We typically go to air at about 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So please take
time.
Yeah,
Perth time.
You're in
no,
Perth,
7
aren't
o'clock
you?
your time. 7
Oh,
it's
right,
variable.
okay.
It depends on. We work on 7 o'clock
Yep.
in the time zone of the person doing the presentation. Yeah.
Well, Doug and Ross can say something as well, but yes, I think that's a good idea, because we'd be very happy for this to spread around. But I would like to just say, give us a little while to get this into our club and see.
Yeah.
I mean, not a long time, but just enough to get it through the club so the members have looked at it and we can get any good, bad or indifferent feedback. But yeah.
Thanks, Caro, for coming on at short notice. I only put this up on Facebook. I've just been a busy weekend advertising it to the world. Yeah. And I remember coming on to your club. We, I think it was maybe not a president, one of our former presidents had a Know Your Rotary. Might have been in Val's year or previous to Val, maybe Lucian's year, where we had to go and find out about another Rotary club, E-club actually. Actually, it was Dudley's year. Dudley's year, I think. Dudley's year. And so I came in on 7 o'clock on a Monday night, Sydney time.
Yeah. 7 o'clock Sydney time wouldn't have worked because we operate at 7 o'clock Perth time.
Okay, sorry, 7 o'clock Perth time.
So that would have been 9 o'clock your time.
9 o'clock Sydney time.
Yeah, and came on, and it was fascinating to share and also hear about your club. So thank you for coming online. I do agree. This is brand new. Only presented tonight, so give us a little bit of time.
Okay.
And down the track, we would love to present a version of what we're talking about here.
Super. Thank you. That's all I can ask for. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Doug.
Doug?
Doug?
Thanks,
Doug.
Firstly, Judy, you were saying that Ross and I weren't chiming in, but I don't think there was any need for us to chime in. You did a terrific job there, and you covered everything that we talked about in our discussions, and you presented those way better, I think, than with Ross and I chiming in at that time. A couple of things that I would mention, though, that at the board meeting, we had an amendment to the vision there. There wasn't any mention of the E-Club of Greater Sydney, so we requested for that to go in at the front end of the vision. Yep. So just for the members, if they're accepting this tonight, we've got the wording, the E-Club of Greater Sydney, at the start of that vision. And if we look at the micro level, we're looking more at the club achieving the Gold Award. And as members, if we're going to achieve that Gold Award, we've got to do a group project, a club project. So the way that we're hoping to do the club project is to do the survey and for people to be able to identify areas that they could improve themselves a little bit under their own esteem, with their own motivation. And then 3 months later, we do another survey and we see if we've been able to improve things. I found doing the survey as a bit of a test, as a bit of a pilot, that there's things that we've already done in our own family. And we had an environmental dinner where we sat down and we had dinner and then we did the survey. and the kids got a bit of a shock. Paul and my wife got a bit of a shock, and we all started umming and ahhing about how many planets we were using to live in a first world economy, which was a bit of a wake up for us. It was good, actually. It was really good. After the survey, then we're hoping to try and roll that into a longitudinal analysis and crunch some data. And then hopefully we give Judy what she needs to be able to put in a solid application for the gold award for the club. And we're thinking beyond that, there might be a platinum award or there might be a something else, but we're positioning for that as well. Now that's all at the micro level in the club. When we get to the macro level, it was really interesting to hear someone from another club say, could you come and present it?
Yeah.
We always thought we were putting this together as a pilot, and it was mainly a pilot for our club to have a look at, see what the members thought, see whether it pushed people out of their comfort zone too much or whether they thought it was okay. And what we're hoping is if we do get a group of people in the club who want to progress it and make a little bit of a difference, if we can find that it works, then I think it'd be marvellous if we could show the leadership and the stewardship to roll this out across other Rotary clubs or present it for their viewing, their thought, and maybe adopting it themselves. But if we look at ourselves as the change agents or the lead, maybe Rotary Club at the moment doing this, I think that'd be very satisfying to look back in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with that, Doug. Well said. Okay, who's next?
I'll say Lucy is, because she keeps dropping out because her hand's been up so long. Lucy, would you like to speak now, please?
Lucy? There?
You're on mute.
Just wanted to add that we're in such a unique placement in that our club is focused on international service projects. And so a lot of what we're piloting, we're also looking at the cross-cultural challenges of how can we adapt these kinds of environment issues to the countries that we're working in. And I think for me, that's always in the back of my mind, is how can I adapt these issues and activities and resources to the country I work in overseas. So it may not be the same with your club, Carol, but in our club, we are a little unusual in that primary projects we work on are all overseas. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Lucy. I did have my hand up too. So mine's just a comment. We were up at Bargara near Bundaberg a few months ago, and we were there for the hatching of the turtles on the beach. And the biggest problem up there at present is light pollution. How much light is coming out from upwards from the street lights, and the little baby turtles have to run towards the horizon in the water, but they are running along the beach towards the lights of Bundaberg because they don't know how. And so they have to collect all the eggs and put them in certain places to hatch and watch them every day at hatching time. And then when we went down onto the beach, they asked us to bring torches, proper torches, not our phones, not that sort of light, but other torches. And we all stood along and guided them into the water. So light pollution is also one of the biggest problems affecting animals at present. I'll leave that now and I'll go to Barbara Parkins. Thank you.
Hi, when they're looking at all the environmental issues, are they looking at the reusable pads for menstruation and other things? Because when, I talk to the schools here, and you think you've got, some schools have got 1,000 girls, and if they only use 8 pads a month, that's 8,000 pads they've got to dispose of. So to me, it's a huge issue. And I keep telling the schools, why don't you just make the girls, pay 1,000 shillings and then they've got pads for 3 years. Because it's just, that fills their toilets, or then they've got to try and burn them, and this is just here, all the schools I see. Imagine worldwide what that's doing. So is that kind of in the environmental
Yes, Barbara,
Proceed.
I would agree with you, but I think we wrote this, the three of us, as this club. And so those sort of issues don't come in because, dare I say, we're sort of older and maybe past a lot of that sort of stuff. But yes, I agree with you. And if we spread this further, then yes, we would come up with a whole lot of other things, because there's the Days for Girls program, etc., which Rotary's already doing. So yes, I agree, but we have to limit this to something that's appropriate to our club. And I think if we put into the thing, you know, don't use reusable sanitary pads, most people in our club would say, oh, come on, you're past that years ago. But yes, I agree with you that somewhere along the track, as I said, there is the Rotary thing, Days for Girls, which does exactly that. It's something I haven't taken into East Timor yet, only because I'm too busy doing everything else. But I know one lady here is taking it up to Soy Bada, which is in East Timor. So yes, there are a lot of things we could add to this, but let's start small and keep that in the back of our mind.
Okay, no, that sounds good.
No, a good
Okay.
comment, Barbara. I thoroughly agree with you, because there's so much that can be done, but at this point in time, we're just trying to do
So
things
this
that are
is, yeah,
appropriate
it's just
to
more
our
for our
club.
club what we can do as a club. Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So Doug, Ross, any comments to make about that? Doug's being,
Well-
both of you being fathers of girls.
I think the comment that Barbara made there is really good, is a good one, and predominantly this survey we've done for the members in our club as a pilot. But Barbara's just really given us a wake-up call that we need to try and look at going further, and like Lucy was saying, to our projects and how we can help improve areas there. And what Barbara's talking about there, I'm having the same issue at the school that we sponsor in Western Kenya, where they seem to be wanting to go for the disposable pads. And I'm sort of thinking, well, that's okay if you can afford it, but then also there's the environmental side of it. Is saying that from a first world country position. But I think that maybe the Working Party has just been put on notice that in the next 3 to 6 months, we need to start looking at how we can roll out maybe smaller surveys that are targeted for some of the projects, maybe where we can do improvements there as well in our own backyard, and maybe try and help and support others to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Doug, but I think we've also got to keep ourselves at the where we can actually do what we're doing. I think there's a lot of other stuff, yes, that can be done. And yes, I think what Barbara said is too true.
We need Val to say something, please. Val?
Val?
Yes, going on for that, Judith, there is another product called Menstrual Cup. So I'll find out some information about that. That's where there's a shortage of water supply to wash the disposable one the Days for Girls produce. So I'll see if I can find that information. I can't remember off the top of my head where it came.
Yeah, no, I've got all that information somewhere because somebody else has told me about that. Yeah.
And the other thing too is some coffee places down here, if you've got your own keep cup, they will take 50 cents off.
Yep.
So we need to encourage all the other coffee shops to do the same too. And then we can put our 50 cents in a Centurion bucket.
I was just going to say, now there's a good idea. Every 50 cents you save, you can throw it into the, you can donate it to me for East Timor. There you go.
We actually spoke about this in some of our environment meetings, and obviously the challenge that we're going to present to members, what they can do in a month, and then compare it to what they'll do, say in a couple of months. Is there's a lot of financial incentives now. So that you've just outlined one of them, Val, like the 50 cent off if you take your own coffee mug. Another one is like now Qantas, and I believe Virgin's starting this. If you carbon offset, you get frequent flyer points.
So you can fly more and carbon offset more. Circle.
I guess often it's the bottom line. Well, not always, but often it's money is sometimes there has to be some sort of incentive. Yes, we've got to protect our natural resources and live sustainably, but if there's some sort of little kick along to plant the seeds and kick us along, that will always help.
Kero, you had your hand up again. Kero?
I did. I certainly did. Now, bear in mind, I mentioned membership voice before, and we're about encouraging clubs to grow and to seize the day and all that sort of thing. One of the things that I'm seeing with this project, and I realise the club's still got to have conversations around it, is that this is a huge opportunity to slightly rebadge the Greater E Club of Sydney as an environmental leading E Club in Zone 8, and then throw the doors open to other Rotarians who may wish to transfer into your club, other Rotarians who are also concerned about environmental and climate things and stuff like that, and who want to work with people who want to who value this activity and who want to do something about it. So I realise you've got to have those conversations first, but I'm just foreshadowing that there's a huge opportunity there for you. And it's bearing in mind that if you did become, say, a cause-based club focused around this, you can still do all the other things you love. It just becomes your headline project and the thing that would attract other people, including your recruits, into your club. Obviously, there are a bunch of decisions to make around that, but I think from what I'm hearing tonight, there's a genuine enthusiasm for this, and there's a lot of a lot of great things being said there. So I thought I'd just put that on the table and go and sit by the door in case you start booing and I have to leave.
No, I think what you're saying is great, but I think my problem is that I've got a project in East Timor, so I'm doing all that sort of stuff. And yes, I think this idea could just grow. But Doug, Ross?
I think we've got
to,
we can't get too big. Like, we've got to be realistic about,
Yes.
as you'll find when you look at this sheet that we'll distribute, there's a range of things you can do, like things that you probably just don't, you don't even think about, for example, taking your mug to a coffee shop, you can do that. But other things like, for example, we're not all going to buy Tesla cars, so there's a range of things you can do. But I think if the program is successful and is embraced by members, this is my opinion, well, then we can go a little bit wider and bigger and launch out to these, say this Rotary Action Group of menstrual hygiene, because there's scope there. We just have to start somewhere.
Can I just respond to that, please, if I could, just with a follow-up?
Sure.
What I'm seeing happening at the moment, and it's happening here in Western Australia, is we have like little local action groups forming and people joining Rotary action groups. If we're really going to grow Rotary, we need to get some of these things embedded into clubs, because it's clubs that people from outside Rotary really come in to join. And so that's and of course, if you get a whole lot more people doing the simple things that you're talking about doing, that's how you achieve the network effect, and you get the benefits of scale. But I just sorry, I didn't want to dominate the conversation.
I think there's a scope for membership, definitely. If we can attract people of an environmental nature to our club, and we're serious about what we're doing, we talk the talk, walk the walk. Well, of course, there's benefits for that.
And I think also it's a way to get younger members on board, because it's the younger generation that are really concerned about environmental issues. And if we can get them to see that Rotary isn't a group of old fuddy-duddies that don't know what's going on, come along and join us. And I really think it's a good way to get new members and join up with Rotaracts and things. Yep. Looks like Doug's got his hand up again.
Madhu has put a comment. Madhu, would you like to speak?
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. So I'm part of the Menstrual Hygiene Action Group, and this is led by Rotarian Sharmila Natarajan from RIBI. So we just had a speaker yesterday who is a peace scholar, and she was speaking on doing global grants on menstrual hygiene. So I just thought I would share with all of you that Sharmila is trying for eradicating period poverty. Even in places in UK, there are girls who do not go to school due to period poverty, and they do not have access to sanitary towels. So I did a presentation for the action group, and I just thought that I would share with all of you.
Thank you. Because there's also, you can go beyond that, there's disposable or non-disposable nappies, like nappies made out of bamboo fabric and stuff. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. We're starting to run out of time now. And Tony, you had your hand up, I think, and you needed to speak again. And I don't know Doug, whether Doug wanted to speak again, but we've only got a few more minutes. So
Well, I can hold back. That's okay.
okay. Right. Will you lower your hand if you have finished speaking, please, so that we know who's still wanting to speak? But it looks like we're about right now. And I
Barbara
think
and Doug, I can see. Doug's got his hand up.
they haven't lowered them, I don't think. That was the problem.
But he's got his hand up as well.
He's got his hand up and his hand up.
All right. Okay. He has. I can see it now. They keep blacking out. Okay, Doug. Doug?
Thanks, Madam President. Kiro had the question about becoming an environmental e-group and being an activity based. I can't remember the wording you were using, but I think my preference as part of the working party would be just small steps initially, just to see how we're standing. But my concern at the moment is that we've had a lot of discussion from the members on the environmental working party, and I really would like, Madam President, if there's time, to go around and get feedback from the other members of the club who haven't commented on the presentation yet, and just get the feedback from the club members and get a feel for where they think we're at before we start overcharging ourselves with the view of the working party.
We have, we're fairly stretched for time. I don't know, Lucian, you've got your hand up.
I'd just push it. Sorry, that's my opinion. Go for it.
Push what?
The whole thing, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I don't think we should hold off. I think you should just push the whole thing.
Yes.
Go for it. Go for
going
gold.
well.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. And I think we've got to that stage now. We've had enough positive comment.
Yes.
And, we'd like to think that maybe 60%, 70% would take it on. If everybody does, that's fantastic. And I think that as the working group, we'd be very happy to just, what we've got, send that round to other clubs, and with the understanding that it can grow if you want it to. But let's see how it goes around our club and take it from there. And then I'll talk to district about it as well, because I'm on the environmental committee for district. So see what they have to say. And I think
keep Kira in your talk, because he'll push it right along.
Well, I'm
thank you so much for
I'm
what
feeling
you've
very
done,
positive
Judith.
about it.
Judith, thank you. And thank you to your group. You've done a lot of work to put that together. And I think we all should give you a nice round of applause for all the work you've done. Thank you so much. And I think we better move on. Tony, did you want to speak about the 5th Sunday?
Certainly, Madam President. Thanks for the opportunity. For most of the members here, and if the members don't know, in any given year, there are a number of 5th Sundays. 5th Sundays are important to our club because that's when we meet. It all stemmed back from COVID and limitations on how you can raise funds in a very difficult environment to support the various Rotary activities that we do. We had some success last year with the 5th Sunday, and we ran a trivia night, we ran a Rotary Toastmasters fun learning experience. In fact, I think we ran 2 trivia nights, and they were successful in raising some much needed fun, and they brought something different to the club. The whole idea is they're meant to be about fun. So what we're looking to is this year, we have identified that is we want to do this again, the 5th Sunday. There's one at the end of July, which we're just going to ignore because it's too close. So we have 3 in the wings, one on the 30th of October, one on the 29th of January, and one on the 30th of April. It involves a little bit of work of a small team to get together, and they can seek ideas from the whole membership on what they think we should do and how we should do it. There are people in the club who have already been involved with it that can offer their assistance in how we did it as far as collecting monies, collecting details, sending out information and the like. So what we're really seeking is for consideration from the entire E-Club membership for 3 people to volunteer to basically organise and run the 5th week events as they're determined by the membership. So this is the first announcement seeking volunteers. So I just want to plant the seed, to use a phrase that's been used quite tonight. What we'll do is we will follow it up with an email and give you contact details, so that it's particularly for the members who say aren't on the board, because it gives you an opportunity to be what I did as a new member. I met Rotarians within the club. I got to work with them. I got to use the skills that I have that could contribute to the organisation of the event. So many of you out there in the same boat. It's an opportunity, particularly for our new members, or even if you're a long-term member. But it was a fun exercise. The great thing is we raised funds that we never thought we'd ever get because of COVID and the disruption. So there's a big opportunity this year. We've targeted some money. I think it's $3,000 that we've looked at. So if you look at 3 events, it's really only $1,000. And if you base it on the simplicity of, we were charging $20 a head, you only need to get 50 people to come along. And trust me, it's not that hard. So I will leave that thought with you. Members, consider being a volunteer on the 5th week committee. It's only 3 times a year, October, January, April. And we'll be in touch by email. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Dudley would like to speak for a second on the foundation, please.
Sorry, I'm over here. The bandwidth in our house is ruinous. We can't keep both computers going. I've got my foundation hat on at the moment. I point out that the E-Club was one of only 14 clubs that submitted an application for district grant. We were successful, and the successful grant was one submitted by Maury Shockman. He is going to, excuse me, run a mental health program for the kids that are tied up in his Karoo Foundation. If you get an opportunity, Google Karoo Foundation, see what Maury's doing, see what the conditions are like up there. They're absolutely horrendous. So if you could have a look at that. And we are one of 14 clubs in the district that submitted and had an approved grant. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the last board for 20, beg your pardon, what did you say?
I was just going to say, talk about your bandwidth. You just froze for a while.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we last board agreed that we would try out the community chest raffle, and we didn't start it yet because we didn't. Nobody gave me any reason for us to run the raffle. So we really do need a really good cause that we'll be able to advertise and sell those. Well, it's up to people to give me a reason. I know Doug's interested, so please do that. We may find it a bit hard to get into this next raffle, but we might have to wait till their next one. But we're working with another club first, the one that's running the whole show, and getting in with them. So please let me know if you're interested to submit our cause. And yes, and it will go into Phoenix next week to explain it again. And is there anybody else who would like to say anything or brag about something or whatever? I can brag that we're over COVID. We're out of isolation and feeling almost human. Thank you. Anybody else like to brag about something or talk about something, please?
Well, you can.
Oh,
some hands
nobody.
up.
Oh, who's this? Val. got your hand up?
Yes, I've registered to apply for a global grant. And there's enough for a global grant, the basics of it, but the hospital needs in Nepal needs 5 pieces of equipment. So I'm trying to raise more funds now to get as much of those 5 pieces of equipment as possible with a global grant. So that's a cause. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. Lucian?
We're starting up a decaf cafe
Oh,
in
great.
October.
Finally. Oh, good.
That starts up on Tuesday. I'm actually guest speaker at Springwood Rotary Club tomorrow night, and they want to start up another decaf at Springwood. I'm also the guest speaker for Blackheath for reconciliation to show the clubs that we need to vote yes for the change of to Zone 8. So yeah. So there you go.
Wow, that's great that you're starting that. Ours is going well here. I don't know if everybody knows what decaf is. It's not the coffee, but it's not decaffeinated. It's Dementia Cafe, and it was started in Sydney. And Bobby Redmond, who was a member of our club, she was one of the main instigators of this and helped to get it sorted out in Sydney, but it's spreading. But here at Tea Gardens, we have started our own one because we don't have a Rotary Club here, but it's based on the decaf, which is from the other one that was set up. Is there anybody else who would like to speak, please?
And one other point, sorry, we've also put a peace ball into one of our primary schools up here.
Yeah.
I'll give you a full report.
What did you say?
One of the peace balls, you know, the peace balls that we're talking about?
Oh, yes, yes.
One of those has been put up in St. Kenneth's up in Katoomba, Katoomba Rotary and the E Club name.
Wow, that's good. And I know Maury's doing some, and Dudley's going to do one himself too, but we're waiting for the school. It's taking a little while for the school to get their affairs in order. We have a couple more minutes, and if not,
Doug's got his hand up.
Doug, I don't think you put it down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't put it down, but if there's a couple of minutes, I'll put her on the spot. Can Lucy give us an update on what's happening with the bee working group quickly?
That'd be good.
Rotarians for Bees was started about 4 years ago by the Canterbury Rotary Club in Victoria, and they are now abuzz with making that a national initiative. And so the next focus is in New South Wales. So we're looking for speakers, we're looking for activities and opportunities to connect with clubs in New South Wales to let them know how to create pollination pathways if they have a balcony, or if they have a garden, or if they want to do something in a school or elsewhere. So rotariansforbees.org is the website. You can also go to the Facebook page and join. It doesn't cost anything, but that gets you on the list to be alerted when there are new environmental initiatives that might be useful to you personally or to your own network. Thanks.
Are they being affected by the mites?
Yes.
Have you heard any of them?
Yes. Yeah, many hives around Newcastle have been euthanized, but the Department of Primary Industries has moved very quickly along with the Australian Honeybee Industry Council, and both commercial and hobby beekeepers are WhatsApping and emailing and sharing ideas and resources. It's been a fantastic response that is going to make sure, I think, that we can get all the varroa mite, which is a pest that if it kills bees, it affects all of our food supplies in Australia. So keep an eye on that when you hear it on the news.
And pollination. pollination, and lots of things will be affected. Thank you. Our next meeting is on the 7th of August. We have a speaker, Tanya Cirkic, and she's speaking of the Little Blue Shed. More information will come out in the next couple of days about her. And it's hard to get people to do photos and bios. If any people have any great speakers for later on in the year, please let me know. We have a lot of the dates still filled up with people we didn't fit in from last Rotary year, but we need a speaker for about the 18th of September and another one on the 6th of November. So please, if you have any ideas, it'll be great. And I think we're on time to finish. Any more comments, brags, anything else? If not, thank you to our visitors for coming. It was great to see you again, Madhu and Kero, and thank you for our members for turning up tonight. Have a great week.
Glad you're
Thank
feeling
you.
better.
Good night.